Okay, tonight's video that Brody and I are going to be doing is on increasing, decreasing, and constants. But before we can do that, we have to decide what a constant is. Okay, so looking at a general equation. Looking at general equations here. Oh, where's my cursor? Here it is. Basically, the number that's in front of a variable is called your coefficient. So here, x has a coefficient of 2. This actually has a coefficient in front of y, but we don't see it. There's always a 1 there. So the coefficient of y is 1. And when you have a number all by itself with no variable, that's called your constant. Okay? So constant, coefficient, coefficient. So if I'm looking at this example here and I want to know what coefficients there are in these equations, I would say first there's the 1 here, and then 2 is a coefficient because it's a number in front of the variable x squared, and this is -3 is a coefficient because it's in front of an x. So these are in front of variables, 1, 2, and 3, and then 5 would be my constant because there's no variable attached to it. So, and it would actually be -5 because of the negative sign in front of them. So first off, you have to know what a coefficient is. It's the number in front of a variable, and then a constant is the number without a variable.
You're not a good speller.
Yep, that's spelled right. It's just not very neat.
That's what I meant.
It's hard to write with this pen. Okay, so we're going to look at a couple of things that we need to be able to do, and that's decreasing, increasing, and constants. So we're going to take this equation that we have right here, and I'm going to put it in my calculator. So I have 2x squared minus 3x minus 5. And I hit graph. So this is decreasing and increasing. This has a minimum, okay? Minimum, right? But if I put this second equation in, it doesn't really matter where we put it in. This one has a negative in front, -2x squared. So it's the same equation, but with a negative in front of it. What do you suppose might happen? Any guesses, Brode?
About what?
I put the equation, one with a positive 2x squared and one with a negative 2x squared. What do you think the negative is going to do to that picture? Any ideas?
I don't know any of this stuff.
Okay, let's see. So this is the one with the positive 2, and this is the one with the negative 2. Did I put that in right? Yeah. Okay.
What's a positive 2?
Right here. The regular 2.
Oh.
That one's negative. So when we have a positive 2, the parabola is going to look up like this. Oops. Therefore, it's going to have a minimum.
Confusing.
If it has a negative, that means it's going to go down like this, saying that it has a maximum. So what we need to know is when this coefficient of x squared is positive, it has a u up with a minimum, and if it's negative, it's a upside down one with a maximum. Okay? All right, let's look at another set of graphs.
Can I draw something?
Here we have, in a minute, here we have lines, okay? So here I put in 2x plus 14. If we graph it, we go from left to right, we can say that's increasing. So the question is, what happens when we make it negative? Any ideas? That one's increasing. This one gives us a decreasing. So again, we can say that when this coefficient of x is positive,
Yay, it's red. It's my
that
favorite
means
color.
an increasing function.
I
If this
can't read
is
that.
negative, that means it's a decreasing function, linear function. Okay?
It doesn't
So
say
you should
negative.
see a pattern here. When it's positive, it's increasing. When it's negative, it's decreasing, right? And then back here we had, when it was positive, it had a minimum. When it was negative, it had a maximum. right, so here let's look at some exponential graphs. Hopefully you know there's exponential right now.
What's next?
Okay, so on this graph, we should know this is an exponential graph. So automatically, I should know that this is going to make some sort of swoop. So if we hit graph, oops, we can see that we have from left to right, that's an increasing function. So do you want to take a wild guess what will happen when we make 2 negative? It becomes a, you got it, decreasing function. So here again, we can say when this, and this is called your base number, is positive,
Master Chief.
we will have an increasing. You keep hitting my hand, hon. Function. And then when our base number is negative, we will have a decreasing function. And that's just like linear. When it's positive, it's increasing. When it's negative, it's decreasing. Okay? So looking at this, these are absolute value. Okay? So if we think back to our quadratics, when this was positive, it had a minimum. When this was negative, we'll have a maximum. So let's see if that holds true with our absolute values. So here we have the absolute value of x, and lo and behold, it has a minimum. And let's see what happens with the negative. So when we put the negative here, we have to go the negative at the very bottom. You probably can't see it because our heads are in the way, so I'll move it over here. Okay, so we go negative here. And remember, absolute value, you have to do second catalog. ABS is the first one, and then we put an X, and we hit graph, and then we have a maximum. And that's very similar to your quadratic. So we know that when this is positive, it's going to look like this, but much better. And we're going to have, oh, nope, I did that backwards, didn't I? Darn it. When it's positive, we'll go with red for your favorite color again. We know it's going to have a minimum. And when it's negative, it has a, I did that backward. Gosh darn it.
Good.
I know I'm having difficulty. It's going to have a maximum. Okay, so you have to get good where you can recognize without a calculator whether it's going to have a minimum or maximum, or whether it's going to be increasing or decreasing in the linear and exponential. Then the last thing we have is constants. Constant, just like what we had in the video earlier, is when you just have a number. So like this one, you can see it goes through the y-axis at 1. So actually the equation of that line is y equals 1. And then you can see this one, this vertical line, goes through the x-axis at -2. So the equation of that line is, did I say -2? I meant -1. Oops, -1. So these are called constants because there's no variable with it, right? Constants will always give you a horizontal and vertical line. If you have a y equals, it gives you a horizontal line. And if you have an x equals, it'll always give you that vertical line, which makes it, hopefully you remember, not a function. Okay? So a couple of quick problems here for you. Okay? So if I take this graph here, and I draw a line through here, what would the equation be? Pause the video and answer the question. Okay, so now let's look at this video or this graph. If I were to draw this graph, what would the equation be? Look at your choices. Okay, and lastly, tell me if this is an increasing or decreasing function. Okay, bro, good.
Yay.
You don't have to keep watching at this point.
Whee! How does this work?
Push on it. There you go. Happy?
Hold on.
Say goodnight to everybody.
Good night.
Hold on, hold on.
No, 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 no.
Hold on, hold on, hold on.